A WWE superstar has confirmed their release from the company, but first we have the real reason behind some recent AEW Collision absentees. Earlier this week, a report emerged from Fightful Select that revealed Ryan Nemeth, who used to be a regular on AEW Dark, was sent home from this past weekend's tapings of AEW Collision, with rumors spreading that CM Punk was the one to make the call, taking exception to a recent tweet made about himself. On top of this, Dave Meltzer would take to Wrestling Observer Radio to pour more fuel on the speculation, with him noting that everyone feels Punk is to blame and that similar situations have taken place with Matt Hardy, Christopher Daniels, and even Hangman Page. Well, we now have an update on each of these individual situations, with Punk seemingly not to blame, at least for all of them. Let's break it down then, starting with the Hangman Page situation, who was originally set to be in attendance at the most recent Collision tapings to film a pre-taped segment, this before being told it would need to happen elsewhere. According to PW Insider, the decision to relocate Page's promo had nothing to do with CM Punk, and they would report. Sources within AEW confirmed to PWInsider.com this morning that Hangman Page was not removed from this past Saturday's Collision taping. It was simply a case of the location of the promo being moved to a different place, which had zero to do with CM Punk. As we noted yesterday, Page lives in the Greensboro area, which is why the promo was going to be filmed that day. It was not a case of the company sending him on the road and then sending him home. Many of the rumors of Punk being responsible came from the fact that the Second City Saint made a Hangman-related joke after the show, with him bantering with a fan who was holding a Hangman Country sign. With that said, various reports have emerged revealing that Punk has since apologized to Page for how the promo came off via text message, with Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful tweeting that the apology was sincere, and he would say, "On a serious note, I can say I have also heard that CM Punk sent an apology to Hangman Page. He also seems sincerely confused about the story regarding Hangman being booted from Collision. I realize that coincidence may be too much for some to believe, but he's been quite forward about not welcoming Nemeth there." Regarding the last part of the tweet, it appears that in contrast to the Hangman situation, heat between Punk and Ryan Nemeth did lead to the matter being turned away from the Collision taping. This follows reports of a confrontation between the two following a tweet that was sent by Ryan after CM Punk's verbal jab at the Young Bucks during his return promo, with the two having words inside the AEW Dynamite locker room recently, and Fightful would write, Punk spoke to Nemeth and asked him to make good on his "literally the softest man alive" tweet. The two moved out of the locker room and into a hallway, where those close to Punk claim that Nemeth said he was working to get heat. Punk believed that the tweet was Nemeth trying to score points with his friends and asked him to knock it off because tensions were high and they were trying to move on. He said that he didn't want Nemeth being passive-aggressive unless they were handling it another way. Nemeth is then said to have apologized before the two shook hands and went their separate ways. However, it appears that for now, Punk still wants nothing to do with him. The same appears to be the case for the head of talent relations, Christopher Daniels, who has seemingly been absent from Collision for the past 2 weeks. According to House of Wrestling's Nick Hausman, the issue stems from the all-out backstage brawl last September, and he would write, Christopher Daniels' involvement in the post-AEW All-Out altercation was specifically portrayed to us as the reason the Fallen Angel is not at Collision. Since Ace Steel, Punk's good friend, was also involved in the altercation but not allowed to return backstage for Collision, Punk is said to feel the same about Daniels and does not want him backstage either. As for the claims that Matt Hardy was removed from a Collision taping, this appears to be far from the truth, as according to Fightful Select, it was simply a case of a flight being booked then unbooked, rather than him turning up to the building before being knocked back, which is what Dave Meltzer reported, and the report reveals, "We have confirmed that Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy were supposed to be at recent AEW Collision episodes, and their travel was booked, then unbooked. They were not scheduled to be at this past week's episode of Collision." It's seemingly clear that whilst Punk is openly opposed to working with Chris Daniels and Ryan Nemeth, the Hangman situation was simply a location change and a post-show joke that just so happened to go down on the same night, whilst there's far from any confirmation that Punk was responsible for Matt Hardy being unbooked, other than speculation drawn from the fact that Nemeth and Daniels were in similar cases. Whilst there's a lot to take in there, it's important to clear up all the drama from the past couple of days in one place, and hopefully we can move on from the needless rumors. With that said, we have another CM Punk related backstage story coming later in the video. And next, WWE have filed for some classic trademarks. Over the years, WWE have been known to revive old pay-per-view names and concepts, something we've seen more so in NXT as of late, with them hosting events such as the Great American Bash, Halloween Havoc, and soon No Mercy. On August 11, WWE would file for new trademarks for terms that will be familiar to fans of Extreme Championship Wrestling, with them looking to secure the marks for Hardcore Heaven, Barely Legal, Massacre on 34th Street, and CyberSlam, all three of which are names of former ECW pay-per-views. It remains to be seen if this means the company are bringing these events back, perhaps for NXT like we've seen with the aforementioned WWE and WCW events, or it could be a case of preventing other promotions from using them going forward. WWE would also file for the trademarks of Trish Stratus, Akima Jiro, the name of a current NXT superstar, as well as New Day Feel the Power, which is a semi-active podcast hosted by Big E, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods, which has been running best of episodes for the past 2 years. And next up, an AEW champion has made an offer to a current WWE star. Earlier this month, ESPN would release an article that ranked the 30 best pro wrestlers under the age of 30, a list that was topped by current AEW World Champion MJF. He would be followed by the likes of Rhea Ripley, Austin Theory, El Hijo del Vikingo, and Logan Paul, as well as many more of the best young stars in the business. Taking to Twitter earlier today, MJF would send a message to WWE superstar Logan Paul, with him offering to be a guest on his podcast to discuss the upcoming AEW All in London show, and he would write, "Yo, Logan Paul, I'm a big fan and heard you were very upset with your ranking in the ESPN Top 30 Under 30. I couldn't agree with you more, the list was flawed. What the hell is a Vikingo? Would love to come on Impulsive and talk about the list, as well as the fact AEW is about to run the biggest show in the history of the sport on August 27th. Hopefully your boss and mutual friend, jolly old Saint Nick, will allow it. P.S. I wrote this while sipping on a Prime. Yours sincerely, Numero Uno, MJF." We can likely expect little response from Paul, and don't get your hopes up for an MJF appearance on Impulsive anytime soon, at least not until the bidding war of 2024 has come to its conclusion. And next, a current AEW star wanted to use real glass in a segment. Following the numerous stories concerning CM Punk and cancelled AEW Collision appearances, we now have news on a disagreement that took place during the recent AEW tour of Canada. A report from Fightful Select has revealed that at a recent AEW Collision taping, current FTW champion Jack Perry was pushing to use real glass in a backstage segment on the show, an idea that was reportedly rejected by production and medical staff, as well as talent relations member Tony Schiavone. Following the multiple objections throughout the company, CM Punk was then tasked with advising Perry against the spot, and Fightful would write, Perry was going against production, doctors, and Tony Schiavone advising him not to do it, and them telling him that smashing real glass was a safety hazard, and Perry wasn't happy with that. Shortly after, there were guidelines put in place and forwarded to talent of things that required clearance. Punk's claim was that he was asked to step in and calmly said that they don't do that on Saturdays for Collision, and if he doesn't like it, he could stay on Wednesdays. Word of the situation had made its way around the locker room and was referred to as an argument. Punk's claim is that Perry was throwing a temper tantrum over the spot not being cleared and people trying to prevent it. On top of this, Punk is said to have been under the belief that Perry was using the spot as an excuse to avoid working the following week, something he's seen as a big problem in the company. It's unclear why this would mean Jack would have missed the next week's tapings, whether it be due to it being dangerous, although it may be down to the fact that the segment would be put in the can to air on the following week's show, meaning he wouldn't need to be at the building. It's unclear how the situation ended, but several that Fightful heard from agreed with Punk's stance on the matter, and it was noted that Fightful did reach out to Jack, although they did not hear back. An interesting note from this story is the fact that CM Punk was asked by management to help resolve the issue, a sign that he may have some kind of position of power when it comes to Collision, although whether this is an official role or not remains to be seen. And next, a WWE superstar has confirmed their release. Over the past day or so, Lacey Evans has taken to social media to hint that her days as a WWE superstar are now over, and her latest Instagram post seemingly confirms this to be true, as last night she would make a post that revealed we will soon know her by her real name, and she would say, "When the clock strikes 12, you will address me as Macy Estrella from here on out. Oh, and this jacket is up for grabs, be on the lookout." Estrella has changed all of her social media handles to Limitless Macy, something she will seemingly be using as a nickname going forward. On top of the post, Macy has also changed her Twitter bio to formerly known as WWE superstar Lacey Evans, further clarifying that she is in fact no longer with the company. It's currently unclear exactly how the departure came about, whether it was a decision by the company or a case of an expired contract, although we will likely get news reports emerging in the coming days. And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.